Good morning. Happy Monday. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. I don't know what else has been happening. Hope you enjoyed the Triple J Hottest 100 if you listened to it. I'm probably like 2 weeks ahead now, but either way, I hope you did enjoy it if you did listen to it. I'm recording this before it's actually come out, so I don't even know who won, but getting ahead of the times. So last week we talked about the good enough hierarchy when it comes to dieting, and there was one thing that I wanted to keep going down the rabbit hole with, and this is the whole non-tracking side of things, right? Because I do talk a lot about tracking, and I am a very big advocate of it. But again, that doesn't mean tracking is the only way to be able to achieve something. And I also want to give you guys some practical tips about how you can also, get results to a degree without having to track your food at all. Because there are coaches out there that do not have their clients track at all, basically. Like Mackenzie Baker, he doesn't have his clients track at all. I don't think he does for the most part. There may be occasions and stuff like that, but he gets pretty good success with his clients. For me, I give clients options. I always like to have them track. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. I always like to have them track first, so it helps educate them, because a lot of the clients who come on board just need to know what is in carbohydrates. What carbohydrates are made of, like what foods are high in carbohydrates, what foods are high in fat, what foods are high in protein, and just an understanding of their overall intake, because I believe knowledge is power. But again, there are definitely circumstances where people will not be tracking due to their relationship with food, their obsessive tendencies. There's a lot of things we need to be aware of, okay? And so in this, it's going to be more about the non-tracking side of things, but just to help you guys understand about, tracking versus non-tracking, what's better, there is no better. It's got to be something that's going to suit you at the end of the day, okay? Because even with me teaching people tracking is not a forever thing. Tracking is a tool to be able to help educate you and understand, serving sizes, calories in foods, things like that. But then I get all my clients eventually to be able to move away from tracking, because it's not a long-term thing. You don't need to weigh, measure, every single thing for the rest of your life. It's quite obsessive. You should be able to, after a period of time of tracking, guesstimate what food looks like roughly, know what serving sizes look like roughly, be able to look at a meal and roughly come within 10% to 15% of the calories in the meal. Okay, so if I look at a meal, I could be like, oh, it's about 800 calories just by mental math in my head. Okay, so then I know if I can recall my day, if we're going out for dinner and I'm like, okay, I've had this, and this today. Yeah, okay, like I could have this, or I'm going to make a leaner option. I'm going to choose a leaner option, and this is where we want to be at the end of the day. It's about making good decisions without having to obsessively track to be able to keep the results you've got. All right. Now, if you are someone who has neurotic tendencies, you just hate the idea of having to track, you just want to try something different, or again, you fail with tracking, then the non-tracking methods are ways we can go about this. Now, what I'm going to be recommending with non-tracking methods, there are different methods out there, but this is just some recommendations that I'm going to have for you guys in order to be able to put this into place, okay? So I've touched a little bit on the last podcast. Like I said, if you haven't listened to the previous podcast, go and listen to that. Then we can jump in here. Cool. So basically, if you're not tracking, the principle of weight maintenance, calorie deficit, or calorie surplus all require all still the same principle, okay? Whether you're tracking or not, calories coming in is going to either equal calories burned, calories coming in more than calories burned, or calories coming in less than calories burned. And that'll determine whether you're in a deficit, whether you're in a maintenance phase, or whether you're in a surplus, okay? So again, you can track or you cannot track, but it doesn't matter. Like, the principle of thermodynamics and energy in versus energy out is still going to apply to your goals. That doesn't change, okay? And that's why some people are like, oh, I eat healthy, but I'm not losing weight. It's like, yeah, okay. Eating healthy doesn't generally mean that you've chosen lower calories, because if we just think of the term healthy, and like everyone's got different terms of what healthy means, basically, you go into a shop, you go into the health store, let's say you go to Woolies health shop, and like you look at all the healthy foods there, the low sugar chocolates, guess what? They've still got plenty of calories in there, the fat-free stuff, well, guess what? They still got a lot of, calories in them. All those health items, actually, like, the snack bars, the gluten-free chips and shit like that. And people are like, oh yeah, it's healthy. Well, no, healthy is a very broad term. And also, healthy doesn't mean you're not going to be, healthy doesn't mean you lose weight, okay? That's not synonymous with health, okay? Which is one thing we need to do. We want to be in a good weight range, but choosing healthy foods doesn't just mean we're going to be in that. Because I could eat quote unquote healthy food. You could look at my day and be like, yeah, that's healthy. Oh, how come you're putting on weight? Because I'm still eating more than I burn. All right. So something to also consider with that. Now, based on your goal, okay, whether your goal is to maintain where you're at, whether your goal is to lose a little bit, or whether your goal is to gain, every meal, we want to think about two things I covered last time: plants and protein, okay? So we have protein sources. Plant sources are going to be covered under fruits and veggies, but also, like what are also technically plants, is your whole grains, your legumes, things like that too, okay? Mainly fruits and veggies is what we're going to be focusing on, like as our main plant source, but those other ones still do count and they're still important, all right? So ideally, with every meal, you want to think about those two things, plants and protein. The way you start to implement this is you pick one meal to focus on first, okay? And then you decide whether you would like to work on adding in first, not taking away. Work on what you want to add in. Do you want to work on adding protein in first, or do you want to work in adding vegetables in first? If you want to do both, you can do both, but just set one target. And if you do two, fucking awesome, right? Just think about your meal. So you're like, let's say breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. What's the easiest thing for you to work on first? Let's say it's lunch, okay. Well, are you going to choose protein? Are you going to add veggies in there? Or are you going to add in a piece of fruit with your meal? Just pick one. So if it's going to be a protein source, right? What you're going to do is you are going to choose a lean source of protein. So we have animal sources of protein. We have beef, chicken, any animal basically, fish, dairy to a degree, like low-fat dairy. Then you got your non-animal options. So you got tofu, tempeh, and seitan. They're going to be your main ones. There's also textured vegetable protein, which you can use too, which is actually quite a good source of protein. And then you've also got a protein shake, whether it be vegan or whether it be WPI. So basically any lean source of protein we want to choose. And then ideally, what we want to be doing is making sure that serving size looks like about either a deck of cards as an average, or if you hold up your hand, you curl your fingers around your palm, so it's just your palm there, that's going to be one size serving of protein. Ideally for a female, you want one. For a male, you could have two of those, okay? So this is roughly going to equal anywhere between 120 to about 200, based on whether you're a male or a female, 120 to 220, 250 grams of a protein source, which will end up being about 28 to 40 grams of protein based on the serving size you have. So this is a good guesstimate of what we can be having on each meal if it's going to be a protein source. So then you pick that. So you might be like, okay, at the moment, my lunch has just been a meat pie from the smoke over there. Okay, well, what am I going to choose as a protein source? I think I'm going to have, this week, I'm going to have 2 cans of tuna every day, because that looks like 1 can of tuna is a palm full of this, so 2 cans of tuna. And then, you know what, I'm going to fucking add some veggies in too. I'm going to get some of those stir-fry veggies and put them in the microwave. Cool, that's your lunch covered. And you do that for the next 2 weeks. You just make sure every day you're having a lunch meal. You're going to make sure that your lunch is full of protein every single day, okay? Or if it's going to be protein and veggies. Or if it's just going to be veggies, let's say you're already having something. Let's say, again, you're having a meat pie and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to have some veggies. I can't be bothered changing my protein source yet. I'm just going to have some veggies in my meat pie. And it's like, oh, well, is that going to do anything? Well, we're building habits here. So this is why we're going to start small. We're going to pick one meal and we're going to think what we can add in, okay? Once you've been achieving that for 2 weeks, then you're going to move on to another meal. Or, again, that same meal, then you're going to add in the other thing. So if you started with protein, now you add a veggie source. If you started with veggies and it wasn't a protein, now you add a protein source. Because basically all we're trying to do here is get one consistent meal under your belt, again and again and again, until that becomes a habit, until it's easy to implement, until it's easy to make, until you've got something that's there. It's a good, tasty lunch. It's ticking off the plants in the protein box. You're fucking sweet, all right? And now, it may not seem like a lot in 2 weeks, or let's say a month. Let's say in a month, you finally changed your lunch, okay? Now it's good. Now it's got veggies and protein in it. You're like, oh man, that was a month of me changing it. Yes, okay, fair enough. A month is a fair bit of time. But guess what? You still got 12 more months in the year. And guess what? If you're only going to work on 2 other meals, breakfast and dinner, is that going to take you another year? No. So in 3 months, let's see, each month you've picked, the meals you're going to work on. Starts with lunch, then it goes to breakfast, then it goes to dinner. In 3 months, you are now eating way better. You are now having plenty of protein and plants in your diet, can guarantee that your hunger is going to be more satiated, which means you're going to be less hungry during the day overall, and you're most likely going to lose a little bit of weight, okay? Just by making some small changes over time. Now, just by adding in veggies first to a meal, you're like, oh, well, that's not going to be weight loss. No, it's not, okay? Because we're not looking at what you're doing this week. We're looking at the accumulation. So you might even not see a huge change in month one. But guess what? Once you've now started changing 2 meals, you're going to start to see a fair bit of a change. So this is why it may seem small in the short term, but those little things add up, okay? And again, you're like, oh, fuck, it's going to be a while. 12 weeks you've just taken, which is only a quarter of your year, not even a third of your year, and you've already changed your dietary habits for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Easy, okay? So the idea for you guys first, just adding in plants and protein until it eventually covers all of your meals. Now, if you want to do this faster, absolutely, no dramas at all. If you want to start changing everything at once, or you want to change 2 meals, whatever it's going to be, but just have those as your baselines, okay? Because every meal you want to have that instant thought process, where's my plants, where's my protein, okay? Because the more that becomes ingrained and the easier that becomes to think about, the less you have to think, oh, what meal am I going to create? Because you've already got those bases there, you know? What am I going to have lunch today? Oh, okay, I'm going to have a chicken wrap, right? So you got your chicken, and then in your wrap, you're going to put a salad, you know, some coleslaw salad or something, done. I want to have beef stir fry. Beef, stir fry veggies, done. I want to have steak and veggies, easy. Steak, potatoes, let's say mashed potato and pumpkin, and then a little bit of peas and corn on the side. What else I want? You know what? I actually like a chicken snitty with some veggies. All right, so you go get a chicken snitty from Woolies. So you got your protein there. And again, like, you know, oh, chicken snitty, like covered in breadcrumbs. Well, yeah, but what we're trying to do here is not focus on the calorie side of things yet. We're just working on getting that protein at every meal. So as long as you think about that, protein at every meal, you're going to start to make better decisions overall. And I'd much rather someone choose a chicken snitty and veggies, right? Versus having a fucking meat pie or 2 meat pies and a dare iced coffee, okay? Or going across and going to smash like, you know, 4 or 5 rolls of sushi. Now, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but sushi's healthy. Well, I mean, look, it's kind of funny that people say, you know, sushi is quote unquote healthy. It is. You know, it's got fish in there, which is fantastic. But that rice adds up at the end of the day. And if you're having 4 of those rolls, that's going to add up to a lot. You know, you calorie equate that to having, let's say, a chicken stir fry. Man, you could have way more chicken and veggies than you could a roll. And a chicken stir fry tastes lit, you know, with some oyster sauce and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to get you guys here to think about is just making that habit of plants and protein when you're not tracking. And you always want to add in first. Where do I add in the veggies? Where do I add in the protein? Because when you're thinking about adding those things in, what do you think is going to happen naturally, eventually? You're going to start to sub some of that stuff out. Because if you're like, okay, well, lunch, I'm having, you know, again, go back to this meat pie. You're having a meat pie. You're like, all right, now I'm going to add in my veggies there. Okay, now, so then you're like, oh, I'm actually really full after this. So then you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to have 3/4 of my meat pie, and then I'm going to have those veggies because I'm going to finish them off. Because you're like, oh, I'm pretty full. And then eventually you're like, you know what? This isn't really a meal. Maybe I'm going to swap my meat pie to something else. Maybe I'll get one of those chicken wraps that they have at the smoker van. So you change to a chicken wrap. Well, you've chosen a better source of protein because meat pies are a shit source of protein. You probably saved yourself some calories because the amount of calories in a meat pie depends on the chicken wrap and what's on it. You're still probably going to be able to save your calories a little bit more. And overall, you just ended up swapping naturally over time for something more, let's say, health conscious. That's also most likely going to be lowering calories. Okay? And this is what we want to look at here. We're not looking at big fucking changes all the time. We're looking at little wins you get under your belt and how you're changing your lifestyle for the long term. Okay? So that's the first thing we want to think about. I guess on that thing. I wouldn't say the first thing. I apologize. In that whole, what I was talking about, we want to focus firstly on one meal and adding in, and then from there we continue on, okay? And please do not try and change everything at once and then be upset when you fail, all right? People are so fucking cocky to be like, yeah, I'm going to change everything at once. All right, well, good luck with that, okay? When has that ever happened before? When have you ever quit one career, jumped straight into another career you know nothing about, and then you've got to the top as a CEO? Show me one fucking person in the world that left the area of finance, jumped into being a lawyer, and is a top lawyer in the world. No one. Let's say someone who's left being a lawyer to become the top fitness instructor in the world. and they know everything about fitness. No, never, right? Because it takes time. It's like you start from the bottom again. For those of you listening, you're probably choosing some food habits that probably aren't the best, let's say, all that type of stuff. You might not know how to cook properly. You might not know how to prep meals. You might not know, again, what's in a carb, or what a carb, a fat, and a protein actually looks like in food. Yet you're going to try and overhaul everything at once without actually knowing what you're going to start throwing together, or you think you need to change your meals up all the time, every single week, and now you're like, oh, well, this is actually pretty hard. Fuck, this is way harder than I was thinking. And then you go back to what you're doing before. Don't do that. All right. So adding versus taking away first. Always think of what you can add in, and plants and protein are going to be your main goal. Okay. Now let's say you've started to find your feet. You've started to get some protein and plants at every meal. Fantastic. Well, we obviously don't stop with just protein and plants, as in like just protein and veggies or protein and fruit. We obviously need to have a little bit more sustenance in our diet. Okay. And this is also where we next go to the Australian Dietary Guidelines, because the Australian Dietary Guidelines are a great resource to help us understand what we need to be eating roughly within a day throughout our day, okay? So if you're having, I just want to just put an idea as to what I would think you would be having. Dinner and lunch are basically fruits and veggies and protein sources. Breakfast is probably a fruit source in there with your protein source for the most part. And then maybe snack you have, or a snack or dessert is also where you're going to have your fruit in, okay? So you get your 2 serves of fruit and your 5 serves of veggies. Again, I talked about that on the other podcast, so I expect you guys know where I'm at with that side of things, all right? From there, the next thing we need to make sure we're doing, you got plenty of veggies and fruit, we want to add a little bit of grains in, okay? So some whole grains. Whole grains are also a source of plants. Whole grains are really good for you because they have fiber in there. They have insoluble and soluble fiber. They're going to help you be regular, they're going to keep you full, and then just add a little bit more sustenance to your meal. So if we're going to look at where we want to add in some whole grains, this is where I would say probably the best place. You can actually add them over lunch, breakfast, or dinner. There's different options we can add in. But for breakfast, whole grain sources, you got toast. So you got whole grain, whole meal, whole grain is what you'll be looking for. Oats are a source of whole grains. I couldn't even think of that word for a second. Cereals, there are certain cereals like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Nutri-Grain, full of whole grains. I think, not Nutri-Grain, sorry. What's the other one I'm trying to think of? Wheat Bix. Wheat Bix are whole grains. So we've got some good options there. So let's say for breakfast, you got the option between bread. You got the option between Wheat Bix if you want a cereal. You got the option between oats if you want to have oats. So basically whatever you're going to do, whether it's going to be a smoothie and it's just going to be fruit and protein, or you can add some oats in there too if you want, or again, just a little bit of extra fruit. You can have eggs on toast, which will be your whole meal toast, or you can have oats in the morning, your overnight oats or whatever. You got plenty of options there, okay? For lunchtime, again, we got whole meal toast, we got whole meal pasta, whole wheat pasta. We have couscous, we have noodles, we have, what else? Polenta, quinoa, barley, whole grain rice, brown rice, I guess you would say whole grain rice, yeah, brown rice. I think wild rice also falls under that category. I can't remember off the top of my head, you have to double check, but brown rice, so that's going to be your lunch and your dinner options, okay? So if you think about them, and you're having like 1 serving at each meal, that's also going to help a little bit of extra fiber. Like you've already got your veggies in there, now you're adding that in, so it's going to keep you full. And now we're basically following the volume is going to be covered. Like, because when you're having 1 serving of grains, whole grains at a meal, you're having 1 to 2 servings of veggies, and you're having 1 to 2 servings of protein. You're going to look at that meal, that's going to be quite filling. You know, you're going to have a lot of variety there, and you can make plenty of meals out of that. So at the moment, you know, I've been going through a toasty phase. So at dinner time, I have my Helga's whole meal toast. Obviously a protein source, I change it up. Some days it's turkey mince, other days it's beef mince, some days it's it's chicken breast, other days it's actually been a chicken snitty, whatever it is a protein source. My salad, which is my greens, so I'm getting, actually, sorry, I shouldn't just say greens. Spinach, mushroom, shredded carrot, and what else was I having in there? Spinach, mushroom, shredded carrot. What am I missing here? Oh, onion, right? So a bit of onion in there. That's easy done. That's been some toasties for the last few nights. Lunchtime for me is a chicken stir fry with brown rice. So basically, I just I cook the brown rice in a rice cooker. As that's coming towards an end, I will then turn the oven on. I will turn the stove on. Sorry, I have a bit of a mind blank. Turn the stove on. Chuck in the I think it's called Oriental or Thai stir fry from Bird's Eye. So chuck in those frozen veggies, chuck in some chicken, cook all that up, add in the rice, add in some oyster sauce, boom, done. Veggies, whole grains, protein, low calories, simple, all right? You want to change up your dinner? Again, steak, veggies. You got sweet potato. So with sweet potato or any potato, okay, I say sweet potato because I like the sweetness of sweet potato. If you're going to have a fair bit of potato, count that towards your whole grains too, and try and get some more veggies in. Like you can count veggies, like I said, you can count potatoes in your veggies as one serving, but only one serving. So if you have 200 grams of potato, it's still one serving of veggies. So try and get some different variety veggies in there, but they're also quite filling. So, you know, they're kind of like on that cusp. They're obviously not a whole grain, but they are a higher calorie food, which still, I would say, kind of is on line with that whole grain. So, you know, if you want to have steak, veggies, and some potatoes on the side, boom, done. So we have heaps of options there. You want to have pasta. So pasta, people are like, oh man, I can't have spaghetti bolognese. Well, you definitely can. You just make some different choices. You choose a leaner beef mince, okay? You would add some veggies in there too. So again, maybe some mushrooms, maybe some onion, maybe some peas and corn, something simple in there. You would choose your whole meal pasta, and maybe with the pasta sauce, you just use a little bit less. Boom, there you go, spaghetti bolognese, done, right? Not super high calories. So even these things that you may think you can't have anymore, it's just making some calorie adjustments to fit them in. And so if you think about your basically every meal, okay? So it's like breakfast, we have 3 criteria. We have protein, we have plants, which is either going to be a fruit. I was trying to think how to say this. So like for breakfast time, it's good because you can kind of do whatever you want with breakfast. Like, do you want to have protein, fruit, and whole grains? So maybe you'd have 2 low-fat Greek yogurts. You would have some fruit in there, and maybe have some oats, okay? Or maybe you would do Wheat Bix with a protein shake and some fruit on top of the Wheat Bix. Or you would have eggs on toast, and your veggie sauce is going to be spinach and tomato. Or spinach, capsicum, tomato, or you make an omelet, you know, capsicum, spinach, mushroom, peas and corn, right? So it's good. You can actually alternate. Well, you can obviously have fruit and veggies whenever, but it's good that you've got these alternating things here. So you think about whole grains, plants and protein for breakfast, whole grains, plants and protein for lunch, whole grains, plants and protein for dinner, okay? You think about those 3 things. Again, you have those 2 baselines, then you add in your grains. You've got meals sorted forever. You know what roughly good eating is going to look like for the most part, okay? And when I say good eating, this is nutrient-dense food that's going to fill you up, that's going to keep you full, that's still going to be enjoyable. And it may seem like, oh yeah, that's quite simple. And obviously it's harder to implement as you go, but this is where we want to be setting you up. And this is why I'm saying taking stepping stones. Start with protein, okay, or plants, then go to protein and plants, or plants and protein, whatever you're building up. Then go to plants, protein, and whole grains, okay? Because as you're building up, it's easier to keep things in. It's harder if you keep trying to go from doing 0 to everything, all right? Once you start to have these baselines, it just makes fucking things so much easier. Now, after you've got that, you got your grains, you're covering all those bases basically, so that's going to quite be calorie controlled. I guess the thing you have to think about here is also the serving sizes of grains, okay? So if you get your hand and you make it kind of like in a cup type of thing, yeah, I'm trying to think how I'm going to do that. Like a cup, like I'm going to cup up water, I guess you would say. I'm just trying to think how to explain it. That's what like a serving of grains is going to look like. So it's not going to be a huge amount. Or it's like, slice of toast, okay? It's, well, everything else is not a slice of toast. Is obviously going to be in the form of a cup side of things, but that's how you're going to kind of roughly get an idea about what a serving is going to be. So 1 to 2 servings at each meal would be ideal of whole grains, because then that way you got your 5 servings of veggies, you got your 2 servings of fruit, you got, let's say, between 3 and 5 servings of protein, and then also you've also got so it'd be, let's say, 1 to 4 servings of whole grains a day. You're covering all your bases pretty good there. And this is like literally what it is, putting it in place. So it's like, we add in those good things, right? Over time, you'll start to make better meals for it. It'll help keep your calorie control. When it comes to making those foods more enjoyable, you can use things like salt, pepper, any herbs and seasonings, spices, any of that shit, okay? Like, It doesn't mean when we're eating these quote unquote healthy, clean foods, they're going to taste like shit. You can make these foods taste amazing. Again, a little bit of oyster sauce and stir fry goes a long way. Some low calorie barbecue sauce from Coles or Woolies, goes a long way. Same as low calorie tomato sauce. What we want to avoid is things like mayo, aioli sauces, things that are more calorie dense. Even though they taste amazing, they're just going to pack those calories on and on. So I'd rather you try and choose a lower calorie sauce. Try and look at a sauce that's probably like, I would say less than, oh, look, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Ideally, you want to look at a sauce, and when it says per serving, it's going to be less than 40 to 50 calories a serving, okay? Because these things add up. If you're having, like, when you actually look at, like, what a serving size is, you do a little squirt, you're like, oh. And so people put in a lot of sauce on there, again, especially, like, my partner, she loves Kewpie mayo, right? Kewpie mayo is delicious, but it is so dense. And it is so easy to add in 400 calories to a meal by just adding some Kewpie mayo in, okay? Same thing as aioli. Aioli tastes lit, but it's very high in calories. So we want to try and choose lower calorie sauces, or again, using things like herbs, spices, seasonings, stuff like that to our advantage. I love to bake my potato and pumpkin, right? Put some rosemary on my potatoes, put obviously a little bit of spray oil on it, put some rosemary on there, a little bit of salt and pepper, delicious, all right? Put some nutmeg on your pumpkin, done, okay? There's not a lot you have to do to make something taste delicious. And this is how you also make it enjoyable, right? Let's say like for breakfast, again, you want eggs or you want an omelet. You know you don't need a lot in an omelet to make an omelet taste freaking amazing. A little bit of cheese, tiny bit of milk, salt and pepper, stir it all together, you're done. Tastes fucking fantastic. You put a little barbecue sauce in there, done, right? You get your protein oats, you just use the protein powder to make it taste better. It's got that the flavor already in it, and also the flavored Yo-Pros or Chobani's. Like 2 salted caramel Yo-Pros with banana, like with frozen banana, and then let's say a salted caramel flavored protein powder, you're not going to need anything more sweeter than that. I hope you understand that. Like, you're not going to need anything extra sweeter. And so again, like let's say for lunch, you want that chicken snitty with veggies again. You have a little bit of low calorie barbecue sauce. Done. Add some salt and pepper. Sorted. Easy. All right. This is what we're trying to do here. Make it as easy as possible for you guys to be able to stick to. And this is also why it comes down to the principle of the 80-20 principle. So I've said things like, add in if you want a chicken snitty, right? Stuff like that, yeah, it may not seem like it's super healthy, but we're trying to follow the 80-20 principle here. And for you choosing good options, lower calorie, more nutrient dense options for 80% of the time is what we want to be at. We never want to be 100% on one direction. And it's actually funny. I had a client say this the other day, and she's like, I want to start working on cutting out sugar from my diet. And I was like, what do you mean cutting out sugar from your diet? She's like, oh, well, last week, because I was looking at it a week, and it was fantastic. It was good. She had some muffins here and there, like they fit within her calories and stuff. While she was tracking it, she was just showing me. She's like, oh, well, like I've had cookies on Tuesday, and then I had this muffin thing on Friday. And I'm like, yeah, but you were successful during the week. You didn't blow out, you didn't eat a whole bunch of junk food or anything like that. You didn't overdo your calories. You ate well. And I'm like, what's the issue? She's like, oh, it's still got sugar in it. And I said to her, I was like, is it enjoyable? Yes. Are you able to keep it in your diet and be able to keep everything else in control? Yes. Why would you want to cut that out? Because what you're doing right now, you are being successful with what you're doing. All right? That's what I told her. You're being successful with what you're doing. If all of a sudden you want to cut out that completely, what do you think is going to happen? Now you have no indulgence, enjoyment in your diet. What are you going to do eventually? You're going to break and you're going to overeat, most likely binge, because you're restricted for so long. So if you can have something here and there in your diet that is enjoyable, that is going to keep you on track, then do it. Okay? Doesn't mean you have something shit every day. Doesn't mean you have a high calorie cheat day. It means adding things in that are going to add some enjoyment that aren't going to cause you to go nuts. All right? So let's say, for example, I give shit for people putting Biscoff in their oats. If having a little bit of Biscoff in your oats keeps you from eating your protein oats every day, and it's enjoyable, keep it in there, okay? If after dinner every night you have an 80-calorie fucking ice cream from a paddle pop, 90 calories, whatever it is, keep it in there. There's nothing wrong with having that, all right? But we're looking at the majority because that's what's going to make up your progress, okay? The majority. Let's say you have 28 meals a week. Out of those meals, 20, I'm trying to do mental math. 25 of them should be smicko. No bullshit in them, okay? 3 of them, you might do Uber Eats one night. But when you do Uber Eats, it's not a fucking cheat meal. It's ordering Guzman and Gomez and choosing the same thing, plants, protein, because they taste freaking delicious. It's possibly going to get sushi rolls, but instead of getting 4 sushi rolls, you get 2 sushi rolls. It's ordering pizza and not eating the whole freaking pizza, you know? There are some adjustments we can get through here that make it a lot easier for you to be able to stick to in the long run, while still being able to have some things enjoyable. It's just not about an all or nothing mentality, and it's not trying to think that you can't have anything, but it's not also adding too much bullshit into your diet. And this is why I try and follow the 80-20 principle, okay? So I was like, again, everything you're having during the day, have something in there if you need it during the day. But again, that 80% might come from, you're like, Tyson, I love cucumber mayo. Okay, for dinner, you do have that little bit of cucumber mayo, but it's not drizzled all over your food. It's just put on the corner of your plate. So you can dip something into it. Again, maybe it's that little bit of Biscoff in your breakfast or whatever it's going to be. I like, something small, not something large, is what we want to kind of have that balance for. And then we look in the weeks, same thing. When we order takeaway, I'm not like, yeah, cheat meal, fucking let's go and get Macca's or whatever it is. Like, I may get Macca's once every 4 or 5 months when I just want to have something shit. But for the most part, I actually like Guzman. Guzman slaps, it's cheap, it tastes delicious, it covers all the bases. We have Moto Moto, which is, it's Japanese, but I get like a donbari, right? Chicken teriyaki, so I got my chicken. There's an egg in there too, so a little bit of extra protein and fats. I get brown rice for my whole grains. It's got veggies in there. Bang, nailed it, So just find some good takeaway options that you can have, because there's options. There are options out there that'll fit within it. Grilled as a burger. You're like, oh man, okay, what am I getting from grilled? Well, obviously you get grilled. You choose your burger. Ideally, it would be one of the chicken ones. You get whatever chicken you want you're going to have. Try and add some extra salad in there. You got some salad, you got some chicken, you got a burger. Guess what you don't do on the side? You don't get a large fries. Get a burger. Done. All right? Rolled is the same type of thing. I think that's Vietnamese, correct? Yes. Thai food. I love Thai food. What do I get? Stir-fried beef stir-fry or chicken stir-fry veggies in oyster sauce. All right? Get a fried rice on the side. Done. Do I eat the whole fried rice? No. I add a little bit of rice in there. Sorted, okay? It's more about this consistency overall, all right? And that's what I want you guys to think about. It's that 80-20 principle. It's making those adjustments week after week, slowly moving up, slowly adding things in to get that plants, the protein, the whole grains. And eventually, you're going to have a pretty good looking diet there by making some small changes over time. Now, this is also the thing. Those of you who are not tracking and who are doing this, do not expect weight loss to be consistent. Do not expect weight loss to be quick. Do not expect weight to come off all at once. It is going to be slower because you're accumulating things over time, okay? It's trying to push shit up a hill first by making some adjustments, and then eventually the wheel starts to spin by itself, right? But it takes a while to get there. So don't expect drastic changes within the first few weeks until you get that momentum rolling. Once you start to get some consistency with your first meal, then you start to get into consistency with your second meal, you'll start to notice that you actually start to see some changes, okay? Now again, this isn't gonna be radical. It's not gonna be crazy. I want you guys thinking about this for the long run. And speaking of the long run, speaking of long-term, progress and success, the clients who stay with me the longest, the clients who first come to me and had the intent that this is a long-term thing, are the clients who are the most successful, right? I had a client, Nathan, right? He had a breakup. He's working as a security guard, pretty inactive for the most part, realizes he's got to take care of his health, It's like, we all know that breakup phase where it's like, oh, fuck, I want to start looking good. Obviously, there's more to that, but it can be a catalyst for some people, which is fine. It doesn't matter if that's going to be your catalyst. But for him, he's like, I want to start taking care of my health. When he first signed up, he didn't care about getting results quick. He was someone who was like, I'm in this for the long term. I know I need to start taking care of my health. I need to start putting things into place, all right? So we did. We started working on small changes, just like I was telling you guys today. Now, I actually had him tracking, okay? So he's tracking, but still the same thing. We're changing one meal at a time. We're slowly getting protein in. He's a bigger boy. He had to get a lot more protein in. So I was just taking time to get those meals in. because he was working with a security guard, driving as a security. So we had to find some good little takeaway options for him that he could get. Guess what came into play? Subway. Forgot to mention Subway before. Subway, easy choice for him. He could get a 6-inch chicken teriyaki sub, loaded up with salad. You didn't even get the sauce from there because the chicken teriyaki sauce did the job. Bang, that was done. That was like a go-to, and he actually had that quite frequently, which you can have because guess what? It's a good choice. So he was having that. He was obviously making, when he would stop off the service stations and stuff like that, we had snacks for him. All these little things started adding up, all right? That was October 2021 when he started with me. Christmas time came around, bit of a hiccup, it is what it is. Started seeing some progress. It's now, what are we in? February 2023, okay? So basically 15 months. He's lost 16 kilos. He's lost 35 centimeters in total, okay? He's consistently kept that off. He's gone from what is he going from? 111 down to 93. Is that right? Yeah, 93 because it's 16 kilos, right? Is that right? Now I'm having a mind blank. No, he was sorry. Oh, fuck guys. Yeah, he was 112 and now he's gone down to and now he's gone down to 94, which is correct. So 16 kilos or 17 kilos, whatever it is. It's a good chunk of weight, all right? He's maintained that off. Even through Christmas time, jumped up a little bit, come back down to 94. He's now sitting there consistently. It's been, again, 15 months. He's kept the weight off. His steps used to be fucking 2,000 a day. His steps are now, I think, 6,000 to 7,000. No, sorry, 8,000 to 9,000 a day. I'm pulling up his stats. 8,000 to 9,000 a day, all right? We worked on increasing steps because, again, for him, being a security guard, working 12 hours, driving around, very hard to get it. We started looking how we can implement it. He's now been training consistently 4 to 5 days a week. He gets his steps in every day. He's made good changes. He's made this a lifestyle. He's had that long-term thought process in place, and he was okay with going through a year of going slowly, chipping away, month after month, week after week, and eventually, well, not even eventually, he got there, and now we look back, mate, 16 kilos gone, 35 kilos done. He's a fucking brand new man. This is a part of his lifestyle now, and it's because he had that long-term habit, like that long-term thought process in play, and I want you guys to have the same thing. Okay? It's not about fucking tomorrow seeing results. It's not about next week. Like, guys, there's so much room in 12 months to make progress. Okay? So accept that you have to be patient and it's going to take longer than you think, but guess what? It's going to be worth it as long as you put one foot in front of the other, as long as you're willing to commit that this is a long-term process, and as long as that you're going to be okay that you're not going to see instant results every single week. Because people always overestimate what they can do in fucking 12 weeks and underestimate what they can do in 12 months, okay? So play the long-term game. Make those little habit adjustments over time. And guess what? If you need help staying on track, if you need the support, if you need more guidance, and you need a direct line to know exactly what you need to do, then guess what? That's what I got my coaching for. So if you're interested in the coaching, shoot me a DM on Instagram. We can have a chat, organize time to jump on the call, and go from there. But if you really want to start taking care of this stuff and you've tried before and it's not working, or you just need a clear path to help you out, then that's what the coaching's here for. Cool? Easy. That is the podcast done and dusted, guys. If you have any questions too on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram. And finally, if you haven't yet, please share this, and also give it a review if you haven't. It takes like 20 seconds to do. It helps me reach more people. I would really fucking appreciate if you do me a favor, because I love giving out this information for free. I want to be able to help reach more people. And if you can help me do that by leaving a review or sharing it and tagging me, I would really appreciate it. So until next time, my friends, speak to you then.